Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Final Nitro, Sting, Flair. Probably won't be a five-star classic, but we're here for nostalgia. Right, Jeff?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we're all for that.
So, 25-year anniversary of this one?
Yeah, crazy.
Oof. Wow.
Long time. That is a long time.
Oh, my goodness. 25 years since this match. All right. Well, there's going to be a lot to cover in this one. Any particular reason why you picked it, or just because of the
we hadn't covered it. Yeah, I say this is like the downfall of WCW. It was the end of WCW. We'll talk about what led there and what got there, or got them there. And we've all heard the stories many times. But this was one that just kind of looking at, I figure, as we lead into WrestleMania here, starting next week with our show, I figure, focus on that kind of final episode. I had remembered parts of this. The show overall, and it was just a very, very weird vibe on the show. But it was one that wanted to make sure, give honor and credit to the match that kind of closed it out with two of these. I mean, two superstars. Let's call it what it is. Two of the best to be around, especially for WCW and who they were. So, yeah, no other reason than it's just it's great. It's something great to talk about. Yep.
Cool. All right. Let's get into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right, so like you said, we're at the final Nitro. It was definitely a weird vibe. All of it was weird. I mean, this is, I guess what? It's obviously pre-social media. There's some internet message boards. There's dirt sheet physically in the mail. We know this is coming to an end. Bischoff was trying to buy the company. Somehow Vince gets it. We have no idea what's going on. Oh, by the way, we're like what? WrestleMania, I think, was that Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is the week of WrestleMania, okay? Oh, and by the way, ECW is going out of business as well. We need like a documentary on this week.
Yeah, because that was Rock Austin, 2001. Yeah.
Yeah, WrestleMania 17, which, oh, by the way, was the greatest WrestleMania of all time. So you've WCW going out of business and WWE buying them. You have ECW going out of business. You have the greatest WrestleMania of all time. You already had Shane versus Vince. So the Shane buying WCW thing, I mean, you already had that match happening. Dude, it's just it's wild. So, all right, small little venue here. We're at the Boardwalk Beach Resort in Panama City Beach. It'll be fun to watch the setting here. Dark match of Jindrak defeating Jason Jett. Booker T, your U.S. champion's going to retain against Scott Steiner. Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman are going to defeat Shannon Moore and Evan Courageous. And Kaz Hayashi and Yang in a three-way tag team match to become the number one contenders for the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Championship. I mean, what are we doing? Okay. Shane, I don't think they ever got their title shot. Shane Helms is going to retain the Cruiserweight Championship against Chavo Guerrero Jr. Sean O'Hare and Chuck Palumbo are going to retain the Tag Team Championships against Lance Storm and Mike Awesome. Sean Stasiak's going to defeat Bam Bam Bigelow. Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman are going to defeat Elix Skipper and Kid Romeo to win the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships. And then, in your main event, Sting, Flair. What a fitting way to tie a bow on WCW. So, Jeff, how do we get to this match?
Yeah, it's crazy to see that card, and you're like, boy, there's not a lot of star power on that card. There wasn't a lot of star power in WCW at that time. Like everybody had left, everybody had gone, and so as we all know, like WWE had purchased WCW. WCW was in the final days. This is the last episode of Nitro. They kind of leaned into who they had, though. Like you only had so many people, but kind of doing what they do. But really, if you could do it like they did it, like Sting and Flair was really the only main event that you could have. Like there's just no other. There's no other approach that you could take, nothing else that could have worked out. It was really just that legacy, top tier stars. That's what you're kind of looking at. And so, early to like the build here, I guess, kind of how it played out, early 2001, Flair, not a full-time wrestler. He has his last big feud was with Vince Russo, if that tells you anything. And so that's not great. But it was really, he was booked as the ultimate veteran to face the face of WCW, who being Sting. Sting, of course, was the symbol of WCW. Like he was the star. There was nobody bigger than him when it came to WCW. And they had feuds for a long time since the 90s, and both these guys kind of being together. So they definitely had some chemistry, but it was very pure face versus heel, like these two guys out there doing what they do. And so there was no storyline other than that nostalgia. Like you said, it was the final match on Nitro, and that's it. Like you really don't need anything else other than kind of how crazy it all was. So yeah.
Do it, man. We got our YouTube clip pulled up. Are you ready?
Let's do it, man.
All right, Sting versus Flair. It's time for the payoff.
Ho! It's time for the payoff.
This is segment 11. And yet, we have no idea if we will ever be bringing you World Championship Wrestling again. The last night here on TNT. And here comes
All
the
right, so
man.
Sting's coming out. Place looks cool.
Panama City Beach. Yep.
Sting not doing more in WWE is probably one of the bigger what ifs.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it would have been probably fun to see the full apparatus behind him from a marketing standpoint and character development and some of the shenanigans in terms of lighting and some of the Undertaker's type stuff you've done. I mean, I think there's just so much they could have done with him. All right, so Flair's in the t-shirt. I don't think he was in ring shape or expecting to wrestle. I think part of him thought this was going to be his final match. It is pretty cool though. We're at Club La Vila, which was in Panama City. I don't think it's still there, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
Take a look. Yep.
Yep. This is all right. So Flair playing the heel. Let's take a listen to the crowd here real quick.
Names will be linked to greatness in WCW. Sting's first championship.
All right. So we're talking about the history here of the two of them. We'll take a look how Flair looks. I mean, Sting looks great. He's still in fantastic shape.
Pushing Charles Robinson on. If he's careful, he's going to be suspended next week.
So this was March 26th. The sale was finalized on the 23rd. So 3 days before this, we ink a deal. And of course, the quote unquote sale was basically, the intellectual property and the tape library. There was no TV deal. And then many of the top stars had contracts directly with Turner, so they didn't take over any of those, as we know. It's just so hard to believe in hindsight. I know wrestling wasn't the best programming and didn't get the biggest ad dollars, but it's still hard to believe that they were just so adamant about not having wrestling on, because Vince would have preferred to still have a WCW show on a Turner network. So it's just hard to believe they wanted nothing to do with this.
Yeah, well, like you said, so there was, you had this weird week of WCW's gone. It was actually aired, and I'm sure Vince did this intentionally. It was, it was simulcast with Raw, like it had always been, and so, airing at the same time. You're leading into we didn't know at the time, but Austin's heel turn to side with Vince, and so it couldn't have been any hotter in that week than it was. You had the second TLC match at that show, so everybody was kind of focused on that too. Like you said, WWE is the only promotion. Like there's nobody else that is like in the US that anybody's paying any attention to, and thankfully they were as hot as they were because nobody had anywhere else to go. But viewers were only going up.
Well, one of the things that's wild is, I know WCW was dead at this point, but there were still 2.7 million people watching this show.
Yeah.
So, I know it's like fun to say, oh, the product was dead. Well, and I know TV ratings are different now and people consume content differently now. But remember, what's AEW Dynamite doing? 700,000? Mm-hmm. I don't even know if they're that high.
Barely, yeah.
So you had like generous. 4 or 5 times as many people watching this show as watching AEW.
Yeah, it's just. And I saw. Oh, there was not that long ago. WrestleTix always posts kind of what's happening, and there was like 173 tickets left, and then I realized the venue only had 2,500 people in it. Like they are not running any venues at all that are more than, unless it's a pay-per-view, that are more than 4,000, 5,000 people. Meanwhile, WWE, even with the exorbitant ticket prices, is selling out pretty much most every week.
How would you rank Sting's run with AEW?
AEW, good. I think that they positioned him well. I know you and I were watching a little bit more at that time. I think putting him with Darby Allin was smart. It got Darby over it in a lot of ways, which is, I think, very helpful for him and just to get his name out there immediately with Sting. You show up with Sting in the rafters, you're doing something right. And so, and I think he did have, he had the run he wanted, which was good there. And so I think now he's done with the face paint, I believe. I think I saw that with 2025 was his last time he'd be signing in the paint. So hopefully those that wanted to see him that way did. But yeah, I think that, nothing to complain. I don't know if it's in the top tier of like best retirements ever, but it's probably up there.
Well, you bring up a good point. So I also agree. I thought it was excellent. I don't know how much better you could do. Given limitations, putting him in the tag match, I just thought it was excellent. And I thought the final match, and with his sons involved was just phenomenal. So here's the thing.
He got a lot of people over along the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you can say, oh, well, he won every match. Whatever. Who cares? It's all a work.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. Would it have mattered if John Cena beat Gunther in his final? I don't think it matters, man. I think it's like, it's just like, is the Undertaker less of a star because Lesnar beat him at WrestleMania 30? Like, I don't think wins and losses matter. I just don't. I think if you're trying to build someone up and it's like, hey, we want to put over a guy like an LA Knight or a Jimmy Uso or Jey Uso or a Sami Zayn, you need to win at some point. So I think that matters. But like, I think these top stars, I don't think it matters. And I don't think it matters who wins or loses. I think people overrate what a win can do for someone. Like, it just doesn't. It doesn't matter because especially a heel losing, like Gunther could lose and say, I ended Cena's career. He can't wrestle again because of the punishment I put him through. He won't come out. You could get the heel heat back immediately, right? Like, it's not that hard to do.
No.
And we've talked about this before, but you can be critical of Sting's final run in AEW. You can be critical of John Cena's final run. But how many like final runs are there? There's not many. I mean, take your list of the top stars ever. Hogan did not have a final run. Triple H did not have a final run. Flair bastardized his final run. Mm-hmm. Michaels had the Saudi match. Foley, bunch of comebacks and stuff, never really had a final run. Taker, pretty good, arguably stayed around too long, but he had to retire. His final match wasn't in front of a crowd, and then his retirement thing was, at a Survivor Series. Oh.
It's over! Sting wins! Sting defeats Ric Flair here on the final telecast of WCW Monday Nitro on TNT. And look at that. My God, he's going to help him up in an embrace. This is what we're all about.
Sting knows that Ric Flair made him at that Clash of the Champions. That's ultimate respect.
It really is.
For two men I have to say that I am huge fans of. They make me continue to be fan of professional wrestling. Thank you, Steve Borden. Thank you, Ric Flair, for everything you've meant to this sport.
It's been an emotional roller coaster for all of us, fans. The uncertainty of our jobs, our future, of what we love, and what we breathe, and what we live. We don't just work for WCW, we live WCW. And I know Flair, Sting, and the fans would agree.
Okay, so there you go. That was fun.
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get to the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
What'd you think?
It's such a snapshot in time of wrestling. Like the match itself was nothing. Like it didn't really matter what happened in it. It was more like, that's it. That's the last time they signed off. That's, they call him Steve Borden. Like, all of those things. It just feels kind of crazy, but that's what it was like, and we still, we don't talk about that match because it wasn't great, but also like we talk more about the story that came from it. And that's what I think, like when you were talking about, like, does the Taker streak, like, did he need to lose? No, but we are still talking about it as one of the biggest, most shocking WrestleMania moments ever all these years later. I think that's almost what defines these things a little bit more is, are we still talking about the aftermath of it and it happening versus, Cena's run wasn't great. It might be different if, they were like the heel turn we will talk about and how bad it was. But, so I think that there's a way to kind of how these things played out. But I think overall this was, like I said, what it meant to the larger wrestling world is just crazy. But yeah, I enjoyed it though.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. I think.
Right.
And I understand in the moment there was a lot going on, but I think that the powers that be should have understood the historical significance of this. Mm-hmm. To the point where they did something special. You get what I'm saying? And I mean, Sting and Flair, those were the two guys. I get that. I don't know. It just felt like, okay, we're done. I don't know. I feel like there should have been something more.
It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, you wish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We gotten into it yet? I forget. We said it.
Is there anything else, or that's really it, huh?
Oh, I was going to say we're in the aftermath. Yes, I couldn't remember what we had done here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Making sure we said the thing. All right. So yeah, Flair, of course, the post. He moved into WWE. Just kind of always all over the place. The kind of the key veteran backstage, all that. it kind of, because they were playing up the angles here, kind of established that WCW legacy within WWE. And so he was, of course, part of that first invasion angle. Sting, though, like just never, contract disputes, whether he didn't want to go, all that different stuff, like it just never played out like it should have. And eventually joining TNA in 2003. But, that was, kind of Sting's send off. He did have, we probably should cover some more Sting TNA matches and Impact matches. I'm sure there's some decent ones out there, but just really interesting. So neither guy were ranked this year in the PWI. There was an Observer newsletter on this one, though. It was acknowledged many times throughout the show that this was the final episode of Nitro, closing down the old company with its two most enduring stars, Ric Flair, now 52, and Sting, 42, hooking it up into an abbreviated version of the match they did nightly for so many years, with the apropos finish to the company's wrestling product, Flair in the ring, putting over Sting clean with the Scorpion. Even to the bitter end, the company never realized that the face of the company was Flair and not Sting, as Flair sold his injuries and the two hugged, probably realizing that they may never wrestle again. So grim.
Which I guess they never did wrestle again. No, they probably did in TNA at some point, huh?
Yeah, at some point. I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Tag team match or something. So
anyways, okay. So what are you thinking for your score, though?
5. I mean, there's some things I like about it, and there's some things I hate about it, so I'm just kind of in the middle on it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. There was a Flair and Sting match in 2011, so we'll have to go back. I remember that was like kind of crazy Sting. He had like Joker face paint on. But anyways.
Against Flair and TNA?
Against Flair, yeah. And so, yeah, I'm with you at a 5. It wasn't bad, but also like you got to take it from the angle of what it was and kind of how it played out. And it was the end. Like it really was. And so, which feels crazy to say, but they weren't going to put on a 5-star. Like that was never going to be a part of it. And so, but I think it's just interesting that, where we are now with it all. Yeah.
Did some good work today.
We've learned a lot about WCW in the years since. So interesting, though. Yep.
What do we have coming up? I don't know.
So we are on the road starting next week officially. We got some longer matches. Actually, first we talked about him, of course, we thought buying WCW, but we're going to go to WrestleMania 26. We got Bret Hart taking on Vince McMahon. And then WrestleMania, we talked about 17 in Austin and The Rock. We're going to go to 19 and discuss that one. I see of course, the Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels as the guest referee, Triple H taking on The Undertaker. You got Jericho and Punk, and then of course Cena and Shawn Michaels. So we got a lot of big ones coming up here. So it should be exciting, though.
Looking forward to it, man. Be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. We're on the road. The payoff is officially on the road.
All right, we got a lot of good stuff to cover. We appreciate everyone listening. We'll see you next week on an all new episode of The Play.